Your bank account is currently standing on a massive geopolitical landmine that most people are completely ignoring. A shocking announcement just dropped that could change the price of every single gallon of gas and every stock in your retirement portfolio overnight. The world is watching Iran, but the real explosion might happen in your wallet before the week is over. Why is this happening? To understand the chaos unfolding right now, we have to look at the words that just sent shockwaves through the global intelligence community. Donald Trump has officially sent a message to the people of Iran that help is on the way. This is not just a tweet or a casual comment on social media. This is a clear signal that the US is pivoting toward a high-stakes confrontation that could shut down the most important energy corridors on the planet. When a US president tells protesters to take over their institutions and promises that the oppressors will pay a big price, he is essentially lighting a fuse on a geopolitical bomb. First, let's talk about the immediate trigger. The Iranian regime is currently facing what many experts believe are its final days of stability. Protests are spreading like wildfire across every corner of the country. We are hearing reports of hospitals being overwhelmed and thousands of casualties. But from an economic perspective, the real danger is what happens when a cornered regime decides to lash out. Imagine a massive, high-pressure steam pipe running through the basement of your house. If that pipe bursts, it doesn't just mess up the basement, it destroys the foundation of the entire building. That steam pipe is the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran has its hand on the valve. Second, we have the Trump factor. By cancelling all meetings with Iranian officials and signalling potential military action, the US is removing the safety net of diplomacy. We are looking at a range of options that include B-2 stealth bombers flying from Missouri or Tomahawk missiles launched from submarines in the Persian Gulf. Think of the global economy as a delicate glass sculpture. Diplomacy is the protective case. Right now, that case has been shattered, and everyone is reaching for hammers. The moment the first missile flies, the war premium on oil will skyrocket. We are not talking about a few cents at the pump. We are talking about a vertical line on a chart that could reset the baseline for inflation globally. Third, the supply chain is about to hit a brick wall. Most Americans don't realize that nearly 30% of the world's seaborne oil passes through the narrow waters off the coast of Iran. If this conflict escalates into a full-scale regional war, that passage gets blocked. It would be like the main highway into a major city being closed during rush hour, but for the entire world's energy supply. When energy prices spike, everything else follows. The plastic in your phone, the fertilizer for the food you eat, and the fuel for the trucks that deliver your Amazon packages all depend on that one narrow stretch of water. What happens next? Let's simulate the impact on your daily life. If the Strait of Hormuz is closed, even for a few days, the price of Brent crude oil could easily jump to $150 per barrel. For the average American family, this means gas hitting $6 or $7 a gallon in a matter of weeks. But the pain doesn't stop at the gas station. Your 401k is likely heavily invested in companies that rely on cheap energy and stable global trade. A conflict of this scale acts as a massive tax on the entire world. It drains liquidity out of the markets faster than a vacuum cleaner. Investors who are caught off guard will see their portfolio values evaporate as the risk-off sentiment takes hold. People will scramble for safety, dumping stocks and piling into the US dollar and gold. Think of it like this. The global economy is a giant game of musical chairs. For years, we have had plenty of chairs because of relatively cheap energy and a lack of major conflict in the Middle East. But the music just stopped. The problem is that the US government just pulled half the chairs away. Those who are still dancing and not looking for a place to sit are going to be the ones who lose everything when the silence hits. There's a clear divide between those who fail and those who survive these types of shocks. Those who fail are the ones who wait for the news to tell them it's time to worry. By the time you see war in the Middle East as a breaking news banner on your TV, the market has already priced in the disaster. The professional traders and the elites have already moved their money. The average person is left holding the bag, watching their purchasing power disappear. Those who survive, however, are the ones who understand the mechanism of the crisis before it peaks. They recognize that geopolitical instability is just another form of economic energy that eventually has to be released. To survive this coming shift, you need a survival manual. I have analysed the primary risks of this specific Iran-US escalation, and they boil down to two massive factors: an energy-driven inflation shock and a liquidity-driven market crash. Because the root cause is a policy and geopolitical shock, your response must be focused on defense and resilience. Here are the two highest impact strategies you can execute today. The first strategy is what I call the inflation armor plan. This is a non-investment action focused on your immediate household cash flow. In a world where energy prices are about to explode, your biggest enemy is variable cost. You need to lock in your survival expenses now. This means looking at your debt and your consumption through the lens of a siege economy. Why does this work? Because when oil prices spike, the value of the dollar in your pocket for everyday goods drops instantly. By securing your physical needs and flattening your cost curve now, you create a buffer that others won't have. To execute this, follow a three-step plan. First, audit your monthly recurring expenses and eliminate any non-essential services that rely on global logistics or high energy inputs. Second, if you have high interest variable debt, consolidate it into a fixed rate immediately before the risk premium in the credit markets moves higher. Third, build a strategic reserve of essential household goods that are petroleum dependent, such as tires, plastics, and non-perishable food items. Common mistakes to avoid include panic buying at the peak of the crisis, ignoring the impact of energy on your commute costs, and failing to realize that your savings are actually losing value if inflation outpaces your interest rate. Imagine you have $10,000 in a standard savings account. If gas and food prices rise by 20% over the next 6 months due to a Middle East war, your $10,000 just became worth $8,000 in real terms. You didn't lose money in the bank, but you lost the ability to buy what you need. The rule to remember is, in a supply shock, physical certainty is better than paper liquidity. The second strategy is tail risk portfolio defense. Most people have a balanced portfolio that is actually just a collection of different ways to lose money during a war. If you are heavily weighted in tech or consumer discretionary stocks, you are exposed to the maximum possible drawdown. This strategy focuses on moving into safe havens and conflict beneficiaries before the volatility spike. This works because markets always overcorrect during the initial phase of a military conflict. Your execution plan for this involves 3 specific steps. First, rebalance a portion of your portfolio into energy, producers and defense contractors that have strong balance sheets and are not dependent on Iranian supply chains. Second, increase your exposure to hard assets like gold or silver, which historically act as a fear index during times of US military intervention. Third, set stop-loss orders on your most volatile holdings to ensure that a flash crash doesn't wipe out years of gains while you are sleeping. Avoid the mistakes of buying the dip too early, over-leveraging your positions in a high-volatility environment, and forgetting that the US dollar often strengthens during global chaos, which can hurt your international stock holdings. Let's look at a mini simulation. During the initial phase of major geopolitical shocks, the S&P 500 has historically seen drawdowns of 10 to 15% within weeks, while gold and energy stocks often move in the opposite direction. If you have $100,000 invested and you shift just 20% into defensive hedges, you could potentially offset a $10,000 loss with a $5,000 gain elsewhere, cutting your total damage in half. The rule to remember is, when the world catches fire, you want to own the fire department or the water, not the burning building. We are entering a period of extreme unpredictability. Donald Trump's promise that help is on the way might be a message of hope for the Iranian people, but for you, it is a flashing red light. The era of cheap energy and stable borders is being challenged. You cannot control what happens in the streets of Tehran or the halls of the White House, but you can control how your family experiences the fallout. Don't be the person who looks back 6 months from now and says, "I saw the signs, but I didn't act." The cost of preparation is small, but the price of apathy is everything you have worked for. If this helped, hit like and subscribe.